All right, doing a little more scouting today. Here's another example of a licking branch. You can see where it's been broken off on this tree here. I just see a couple, some underneath here are broken off. And then here you have an old scrape. And again, in the fall, they'll come in toward the end of September, October, they'll start coming in. And this will be all pawed back, and they'll leave their scent here. It's kind of like a little communication hub. And looking around through here, there's a bluff, there's a kind of a creek down below. It drops off really steep, and then this is kind of a bench in here. It's flat, and then it starts going up again. So we've got the scrape here, you got a licking branch here, and then looking around, there's several rubs in here. I don't know if they're going to show very well. This one is pretty, it could be a rub from last season, or it could be a rub from 2 seasons ago. That's a pretty substantial rub for this area. There's another old rub here. This looks like, again, probably from 2 seasons ago. Looking at the different ones, there's several trees that are rubbed in this little area. There's another one right here. And so it's got a few things going for it. It gets higher up as far as, you know, continue going up, and it's kind of a finger ridge that kind of spills out here. Got a small draw going up the ridge. Right here, there's a small draw that comes up. And the good thing is, there's a really big tree that has fallen down. I don't know if we can see the shiny back there. That's the limb. So it's a really old tree. It's huge, and it's fallen down, and so it's making everything funnel tight to the top of this draw. So everything's kind of having to walk around this draw here. And so with a bow, I might be able to come in, and if I were to climb like this white oak here, and maybe get 12, 15 feet up in the tree, if I were to climb that white oak there, I feel like this would be pulling my scent down almost all day, because the canopy blocks everything out, and it's really cool there, and you can just kind of feel everything going down the draw. And right now it's 8:30 in the morning, so the sun's up on this side of the ridge, and the only thing with climbing this tree is if I'm here, I'm going to have to cross. There's a trail that goes through here, so if I were to climb there, I'd have to be able to make the shot before they crossed my trail. And there's other little white oaks. There's a nice white oak here. There's some other ones here along the white oaks there. So there's some in front of us. Doesn't look like there's many up along the ridge. So this bench there's another here. So this bench has white oaks on it. It has this, it has a scrape here. And then it's got some pretty, I'd say, substantial rubs for this area. So I'm gonna keep walking this bench around. There's another rub over there. Bench here where it kind of flattens out before it drops off again. Over here is like the main creek. It drops down to that main creek. So here is a small, what I would consider a doe bed. It looks very fresh. So they're gonna lay, as far as their back, is gonna be back here. This looks like a very young deer. So their back is gonna be here where the bend is, and their legs would be here. So this deer was laying facing back up the ridge. And typically what I see with doe beds is there's multiple beds in a small area, and they vary in size. You'll have different age structures. Typically the doe, usually they're not by themselves, but that's a very small bed there. And this is here. Looks like it's a larger bed. There's another over in this area. So it looks like they do use this area. This one's really fresh. The grass hadn't straightened up yet. It's like if I were to step on this, and if I were to stay on it for an hour, that's what this looks like. Well, the grass hadn't straightened back up yet. So the doe beds typically vary in size. They're usually near each other, not necessarily right next to each other, but kind of in proximity of each other. And they also look different directions. Just from the ones that I've seen over the years, the doe, they tend to bed kind of near each other, where they can usually see each other. And then they're also looking different directions. Like this deer here would have been facing kind of the point of the ridge. Here's the bench, so it would have been able to see, down the bench and the top of the ridge. And this other doe bedded this way would have been able to see the opposite direction. And so they can see all directions. That's why they kind of got each other covered. Okay, this is the second scrape on this bench. Second scrape that looks like it's an annual scrape that they use every year. They come back to every year, not the scrapes that are just kind of made, just walking along at night and they don't really come back and work them. This one seems like it's been used every year for a while. So you've got this here. I'm not even gonna mess with this, but this is gonna be pawed back. This is where they're gonna scrape, leave their scent. There are some rubs in the area. And you don't have to have rubs to have a scrape. Some of the places that I've killed bucks, there haven't been scrapes, or there haven't been rubs. You may find a scrape, but there's not necessarily always rubs. And so here's where they're gonna paw back. We've got another licking branch here. Another licking branch here that's broken off. And looking through the tree, there's several limbs that have been broken off. This is a really small one here, but you can see where they've chewed on it and broken it off. There's another limb on the other side that's broken off, and there is the rotted log that the deer, everything basically, coyotes, everything is using that trail. It's just a game trail there. So, and it's 12 yards from the scrape. So here it falls off, goes, it's pretty steep, goes down to the kind of a drainage, not really a creek. It feeds into the creek, so everything's flowing this way, going down to the main creek. You have the bench that carries on around. So this area here, it's not showing up really well, but so it's dropping off here, and you have basically flat up to here, and then it starts back up the ridge. So as far as here on this bench, you got the scrape. They'll come back, I'm sure, work this again into September, beginning of October, going into November. And you got the scrape, you got the licking branches here. Got a good trail here. I've walked the creek. I didn't really see anywhere where, they could go up and down the creek this way, crossing the drainage that goes into the creek. I didn't really see anything. It looks like traffic flow is typically down the bench, whether it's on this main trail, probably doe using this. I put a camera out at this scrape location where they had this tree. There was an annual scrape underneath it. There's several, licking branches broken off, and there's large scrapes, large rub here on this tree, and several rubs either from last year or the year before. So I'm on the camera here. And also this year I'm gonna try this Smokies, the preorbital gland lure. It's the only one I know as far as the preorbital gland, where they rub on the licking branches and things. So I'm gonna try it. Since we started trapping, I do think that scents are beneficial. They work for raccoons, coyotes, beavers, all other animals, and deer seem to have as strong or stronger nose than they do. So they're going to smell our scent anyways. Why not put out some things that, just make sure they fit the time of the year, like this preorbital gland lure. I just put it on the licking branches. You know, of course, I wouldn't put out any kind of rut scent or anything like that in August. That's just, you know, that'd be completely out of season, and may put deer on more of an alert. But just making sure they're in the right, you know, times, whether it's a doe urine or, you know, those things. Those would be, of course, those would be fine right now. But I'm gonna try the Smokies pre-orbitable gland lure, see how it does. Got our camera, so see if we can get any rack deer on camera, see what's coming through the area. And maybe this buck is still alive, and maybe we'll get a picture of him working the bench, and, you know, maybe come and check in the scrape toward the end of September. We'll see.